Hi everyone, it's week 17 of reading through our Bible in a year. And this last week we finished on Joshua and moved into Judges. And we saw that Joshua passed away and now the Israelites are in the land and they've kind of conquered most of the enemies there. And God has raised up judges to kind of look after them. And it's funny, it's sad, but as soon as one generation passed away, they all walked away from God, and so God had to raise up another judge to bring them back to himself. And we also read Luke, and we're almost finished Luke, and read about Jesus' crucifixion again in this book of Luke, and just the powerful things that Jesus went through in resurrection for us and for our salvation. And that's so important for our faith. And then we read some Psalms and Proverbs as well. I just want to kind of touch on two of the judges. Of course, they were the ones that were written about the most, and that was Deborah and Gideon. And one thing I notice about how God calls Deborah and Gideon, both of them are sort of unlikely judges. First of all, Deborah being a woman in that society, women were not often leaders. She was a prophet. And, she was a wise woman and she led the people well. And it's neat it's encouraging to see as a woman, to see God using a woman as a leader for Israel. Also Gideon was an unlikely person. He was hiding when he was threshing his wheat. He wasn't a brave soul. And then even when God called him, he said, "Pardon me, Lord," Gideon replied, "but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family." He was the least in his family, probably weakest. I don't know why he said he was the least and the smallest clan. He felt incapable of leading the people to conquer the enemies and leading them as a judge. But God saw in his heart that he was the one. And often God chooses the weak things or the weaker people in order to confound the wise. And I love that he does that. And that's so that he gets the glory, not the person. And that's how it always should be. It shouldn't be doing God's work in order for us to look good and strong and that we're doing the work, but it is God doing the work through us. And even with Gideon, he narrowed his army down to only 300. And yet they won the battle with those 300. And another verse I just journaled on this week was sort of along the same lines, is Psalm 92:14. "Even in old age, they will still produce fruit. They will remain vital and green." And I wrote, "As I get older, I do worry about feeling useless and not being productive." Here Psalm says that God's people will continue to produce fruit in old age. That is my prayer. In fact, I pray that I will produce even more fruit because of the wisdom I gain. This is my prayer as I age, that you will cause me to produce fruit in your kingdom and keep vital and green. Green is like fresh. And as we get older, sometimes we feel like we're kind of pushed aside as an older generation. But we have a lot of wisdom to offer as we get older, and we shouldn't pull back. We should continue doing the work of God, even in retirement as we get old. Even if you're physically unable of doing things, you have powerful prayer life you can do for God. So, that's my encouragement today, that we shouldn't try to be powerful in our own means, but allow God to work through us in powerful ways. Never expect God to only use people that look powerful on the outside, but God works through those who are unexpected, and like Deborah and Gideon and the old people. So there's hope for me. So I just want to encourage you this week. Keep on reading and see you next week.